Hey everybody, this is take 2 of this video. I just recorded the entire thing for this video about the grading formula that I use. And unfortunately, the microphone, for whatever reason, needed to be unplugged and plugged back in. So I've got some work done on the quiz already, and we're going to walk you through it, but I'm not about to retype it because technology pisses me off sometimes. Anyway, first question is really just asking you to pretend to be me. What would you say to these people if they have a 75% and they really want to raise their grade? What would you tell them? So as long as you answered that, you got points. That's really just asking you to be me. Then number 2, again, as long as you answered it, give me your best guess on what their current average would be. Now here comes the meat and potatoes of the homework is in here in this percentage. You're looking at the percentage of what's going on in the past versus what can happen in the future, and you're seeing how it all shakes out. And what's kind of fun about this is, hopefully this makes sense. If you had a 75% and you got a perfect 100 on the exam, a lot of people think that the average should be right in the middle, but that's because you're assuming that the points before and the points after are equally weighted, which they're not. This 75 is worth more, which is why the new average is closer to it than the 100 that is worth as 1/3 as much. So what I was doing down here is it's 4 examples, same scenario, but instead of the student getting 100 on the exam, they got a 60 or an 80 or a 75 or a 95. And I've already gotten the work typed in because this is what I was actually doing before when the mic wasn't working. I want you to notice what's the same in each of these. I'm going to highlight them. So look at these formulas. I want you to notice that each of these, I'm going to color those. What are we going to color? We're going to color those green. We're going to make them bold. So those 225 over 300s, those represent these points you've earned and total points passed available. So that's what already happened. You can't change those. That's the scores you got on the exam, on whatever they were, whether the exams, homeworks, whatever. These hundreds that all appear to be the same, they kind of are, but I'm going to make those red and bold because those are the total 100-point examed points in the future that you haven't taken yet, the ones you're planning for. And these other numbers, these last numbers, these are the real fun ones. These are the ones that students have control over to some degree. I'm going to color them red, but not quite the same color, because those are the points you can earn out of the 100 available. So now here's the fun part. If you get a 60 out of 100, and then you combine that correctly with your points total and points that you've earned possible, you end up with a 71.25%, which is actually lower than your current 75%. Keep that in mind. If you get an 80, you end up with a 78.75%, which is higher than your current 75. Keep that in mind. If you get exactly 75%, look what happens. You end up with the same exact 75% again. So look at what happened so far. If you got a lower percentage on your exam than your current average, your average drops. If you got a higher percentage on your current exam, your average raises. I'm not saying by how much, I'm just saying raises or lowers. If you get the same grade, your average stays the same. Now, according to that logic, we should be able to raise our average again with a 95, and we do. It raises to 80%, which is above 75. Now, some of you might be saying, oh my God, wait a minute. If 80% raised it 78.75%, which is it raised it almost 4 points, how can 95 only raise it a few more points? I mean, look, we went up 15 points in percent, but only 2 points in average, not even, almost just 1 point in average. And the reason is because the exam you're taking isn't worth that much. Comparatively speaking, it's only worth 100 points out of the grand total. But the key is it did go up. 80% is higher than 75%, so it did go up. Okay. Based on the work you just did, suppose you need to counsel the student. And at this time okay, so same thing. The minimum grade they need to achieve based on the fact that you just did what you just did is that they have to do better than 75 on their exam to get their average to go up. Not to promise how much it's going to go up, but it needs to go up to be above 75%. Otherwise, the average either stays the same or it drops below 75. So there's your counseling. This is one of the more interesting ones, I think, down here. Same student, so they still have a 225 out of 300. I'm going to make those bold and green like we did before. not red, green. Okay. But they've got 200 points coming up. I'll make those bold and red. And this student wants a 90. So what would you tell the students? Well, one thing you can do is, well, in order to get a 90%, you'd better kick as much possible, but you can. So suppose these students get all 200 points, all 200 points available. Well, if they do that, they're going to end up with a 425 out of 500. Now, what I did to do this, because I didn't feel like grabbing for Google, is I said, well, 500 can be doubled to 1,000 pretty quickly, and 425 can be doubled to 850. And then since they both end in a 0, I can drop the zeros off, and it's just 85 out of 100, which means the best this student can do if they kick all the butt they can kick and get all the points they can get is an 85%, which means they can't get that 90% that they want. So realism kicks in. There's not enough points left to get that percentage up. So I hope this makes sense. Sorry about the kind of weirdness with the formulas up here, but technology, gotta love it. We'll see you in class.